Hello everybody and welcome back to James's Classic Movies. Today we have three classics. Well, not so much classics, but good movies to say the least. Starting with Maleficent and, of course, Maleficent 2. So let's get started with Maleficent 1 here. Starring Angelina Jolie, Elle Fanning, Vivian Jolie Pett, and Sam Riley. Costing $180 million to make, she brought home $780 million. Directed by Robert Stromberg, this picture was filmed or released in 2014. Of course, we all know what it's about. It's about a magical creature who grows up in peace and harmony with herself, but that harmony is shattered when she gives her love to the wrong person and he betrays her, and all hell breaks loose. We want you to take a look at this real quick.
Well, well. I shall bestow a gift on the child.
Before the sun sets on her 16th birthday, she will fall into a sleep like death.
Curious little beastie. Bring her to me.
I know you're there. Don't be afraid.
I am not afraid.
Then come out.
Then you'll be afraid.
All the other fairies fly. Why don't you?
I had wings once. They were strong, but they were stolen from me. There is evil in this world. Hatred and revenge.
Bring me her head.
I call on those who live in the shadows. Fight with me now!
Is it true? Are you Maleficent?
As I say, all hell breaks loose when you, with Maleficent, growing up into how do you say it, into a fantasy world, or a magical fantasy world, in the kingdom of the forest, where she grows up realizing she must now protect that forest with her life, when she is betrayed by the very person she has fallen in love with, who has a desire for the crown. And to do that, he cuts her wings off and presents them to this reigning queen. Totally betrays her, and she gets her revenge, or tries to get her revenge, on the girl child of her former lover and queen, who is now the king. And we see our story take place. In 2019, Maleficent 2 came out. This kind of hard to differentiate, because now I got two of my favorite actresses in the same movie, Michelle Pfeiffer and Angelina Jolie. Of course, I'll always remember Michelle playing Catwoman in Batman Returns. I'm sure most of you do too. But now we got a woman who's got her eyes set on the throne, and to do this, she has to separate Aurora from Maleficent in any way she can. Of course, Michelle Pfeiffer doing a heck of a job in this. Take a look.
5 years ago, I thought I lost you forever. There is no curse that could ever tear me away from you. Will you marry me?
Yes.
Mistress, I have a little bit of news.
Don't ruin my morning.
Philip asked me to marry him.
No,
I wasn't really asking.
nor was I. Love doesn't always end well, Beastie.
Trust me. Let us prove you wrong.
You have done an admirable job going against your own nature to raise this child. But now, she will finally get the love of a real mother. Tonight, I consider Aurora my own.
There is no union. There will be no wedding.
What have you done?
We go home now. Aurora!
Maleficent is a threat to everyone. We'll do our best to protect you.
Well, well.
One can never be too careful.
This isn't you.
You do not know me.
Tell me what happened.
There was another creature.
You've spent years caring for a human. Now it's time to care for...
Now that was directed by Joachim Ronning. Please don't condemn me for mispronouncing the names. I'm not perfect. Okay, now we move on to... well, let me go ahead and tell you that film cost $185 million to make, and it grossed $491, just over half of what the first one did. Of course, this is close to 500,000, so we'll give it the benefit of the doubt and 300,000 short. Didn't do as good as the first one. Of course, they kept separating it, which really kind of turned down the fire. It's like putting the fire up on your grill to cook the main course. Everybody loves it, and you turn the fire back down, you know, to make some vegetables or whatever. And by that time, your meat, if you want to put back on the grill, is just lost its interest. Everybody's got a full stomach. And then you try to, you know, get people's appetites back up for that film, and it just doesn't work. I mean, people can only take so much. But now there's talk of a Maleficent 3. Maleficent 3, according to the internet and Disney, was scheduled to come out in 2024. Now, if this is true or not is yet to be seen. It's called Maleficent 3, The Dark Fae. It's supposed to be the defining film of Maleficent. We want you to take a look at this trailer real quick.
The world is filled with stories of legendary heroes and treacherous villains, of fantastical creatures and wondrous places where nature and magic live in perfect harmony. Not all stories have happy endings. But yours has yet to be written.
We have always known war. It forged our empire. Turned heroes into queens and kings. And decimated our foes. Now our oaths are lost, forsaken. And you must face the monsters our sins have borne. Is an oath worth the weight of a crown?
For the human king had heard of a growing power in the moors, and he sought to strike it down.
Now, I hope you enjoyed that, but now I've got a feature for you to look at, put out by Dynamic Films. This gives us a history of all three films, the good, the bad, and ugly, we call it. So I want you to sit back for about 8 minutes and watch this, and you'll have a full understanding of Maleficent. Take a look.
The Maleficent franchise is a strange one. With the first two movies released 5 years apart, with the two movies changing the narrative quite a lot, the villain became the hero in the second movie, a shift of scenery for a character that we don't see very often, and the mixed reviews of the sequel pose the question whether there will be a third movie sometime soon. Thus today we're going to take a first look into things and tell you everything we know so far, how the second movie sets up another sequel, will Angelina Jolie be back as the hero, as the villain, and even what the story could be for the third movie. As we said before, the sequel, Maleficent Mistress of Evil, hasn't been a huge box office success, so the question that needs answering right now is whether there will be a third movie. Based on the famous Sleeping Beauty tale, the franchise put Angelina Jolie in the role of the titular character, with the first movie making its debut back in 2014 and the second movie released in October 2019. The first movie was a huge success as it managed to make a very good live-action adaptation, a dark fantasy take on Walt Disney's most prized possessions, with the movie itself making around $758 million at the box office with a budget of only $180 million, and because of that, it came as not a surprise that Disney wanted to make another movie, which came 5 years later, a sequel that put Aurora and Maleficent against their greatest challenge yet, Queen Ingrid of Ulstead, a movie which established the groundwork for future installments of the franchise. However, the not-so-good reviews set the entire franchise a little further back. The second movie picks up 5 years after the death of King Stefan, the father of Aurora, who now rules as Queen of the Moors. The movie presents to us the conflict between Maleficent and the power-hungry Queen Ingrid, with the movie introducing a subplot about Maleficent's dark fae ancestry, which is bad news for the Queen of Ulstead.
You have done an admirable job, Maleficent, going against your own nature to raise this child.
Before we move forward, we should warn you that there will be very detailed spoilers as we're explaining the ending of the second movie, which sets up a third movie. An ending we will go into detail to let you know what kind of a take Walt Disney might continue with. It came as no surprise that Queen Ingrid is the full-blown villain of the movie, the one who places a sleeping curse on her husband King John for the sole purpose of turning Aurora against Maleficent. The basics of Queen Ingrid's plans are conjured by the poison she's making together with engineer Gerda from tomb blooms, flowers that grow on fair graves at the moors, a poison that will wipe all the magical creatures from the moors. The stage is set by the wedding between her son Prince Philip and Aurora when Queen Ingrid brings all the creatures of the moors into the church, locking them up and letting Gerda release the poison. This is also the time when Maleficent steps in and sacrifices herself during the battle to save Aurora from an arrow before rising again as a phoenix, saving Aurora yet again, as she's thrown off her tower by Queen Ingrid. As with almost every fairy tale ever, this one also has a happy ending as Aurora and Prince Philip get married, uniting the kingdom of Ulstead and the Moors, with Maleficent turning Queen Ingrid into a goat when she's captured by the dark fae Bora. A happy ending we all deserve, but also yet another reason for a third movie to be made, a movie that would eventually manufacture some tension from somewhere. And yes, there are not lingering plot threads out there for a potential movie, but there weren't any in the first movie. And look where the franchise is right now.
Philip,
Yes?
do you love my daughter?
With everything I have.
There's no official word about a third movie of the franchise being given the green light, which may very well be due to the box office take of the second movie, which, as we said before, was nothing special when compared to the first movie, but also the COVID-19 pandemic taking over shortly after the second movie release that happened on the 18th of October 2019, and chain of events sending the movie industry in disarray. However, knowing that $500 million at the box office is nothing to be overlooked, we still think that a third movie is still in the cards. It's only a matter of time. A time that is of the essence when it comes to the fans of the franchise. Thus, for a possible third movie, we should keep in mind that because of the pandemic, all the processes in making a movie are taking even more time, even without any complications happening on set. So, if we take everything into consideration, and the fact that the first two movies were released 5 years apart, we shouldn't be expecting the third Maleficent movie until 2024 at the earliest, especially since the movie itself hasn't been confirmed yet.
We all saw what Maleficent did to him.
I'm so sorry.
Considering that the franchise itself is titled Maleficent, it's more than given that Angelina Jolie would be returning to reprise her role in the third movie as well, with both Elle Fanning and Harris Dickinson almost guaranteed to be back as Aurora and Prince Philip respectively. Seeing how they're still very much alive by the end of the second movie, living in the typical happy fairy tale ending, maybe not for long, however, we never know what can come of it. Sam Riley's Diaval, Maleficent's loyal raven human companion, will probably be around for the possible third movie as well, and since Maleficent is getting more and more involved with her dark fae background in the sequel, we wouldn't be surprised to see the return of Bora with Ed Skrein reprising his role. The unlikely thing to happen would be the return of the fairy trio Imelda Staunton's Knotgrass, Juno Temple's Thistlewit, and Leslie Manville's Flittle, who are now a fairy duo since Flittle sacrificed herself in the sequel. One interesting detail about the cast that we all ought to know is whether Michelle Pfeiffer will be returning as Queen Ingrid, who, as we can recall, is not dead by the end of the second movie, but rather turned into livestock until further notice. And while a possible third movie would not go on with the same antagonist as the second movie, Queen Ingrid is still Aurora's mother-in-law, so because of that alone, she might get a lesser punishment for her crimes and have an impact in some other shape or form. Unfortunately, this is everything we know so far about the cast of a potential third movie, which will get bigger once the third movie is confirmed, bringing new cast members to the group.
Killing peasants on the moors will only lead to more conflict, Bora.
And while there aren't any details about the potential plot of the third movie, which is understandable knowing that the third movie is not even confirmed, we still have a lot to go on. Seeing how the second movie, Maleficent Mistress of Evil, does a lot of world building, effectively giving Maleficent 3 opportunity to go in any direction the people behind the scenes want. The heritage as a dark fae and the various magical people and creatures in the franchise opens the door for one wild fantasy when it comes to the plot of the potential upcoming movie. Thus, our educated guest suggests that the third movie might feature Maleficent facing a magical creature of equal or greater power, something that could potentially challenge her magic, a villain of sorts that would bring a lot to the table, a powerful foe that would bring all of the characters we know and love together to defeat it. The second movie ends with the premise that the powerful fae will make her return to the moors when Aurora and Philip have a child, which could mean that the third movie will tease us with a newborn. But this time, we might get another superpowered angry fairy in designer clothes getting cursed nonetheless, and Maleficent being the one to clean up the mess together with the others. On a related note, tell us down in the comments below what are your thoughts on the franchise so far, and if you could
Now, I sure have hope you enjoyed that, and you'll pick up the first two Maleficents, put them in your library if they're not there already. Of course, you can watch these on YouTube, Amazon, Netflix, or whatever your favorite movie genre is. Or you can do like me, go out to your favorite DVD retailer, whether it be Amazon or a local retailer. Pick these up and add them to your collection. Until next time on James' Classic Movies, you have been watching Maleficent.